So let's talk about bliss and suffering. Bliss is not personal, whereas suffering, that is very personal. See, when we think about our suffering, see even how I just said it, my suffering, right? My suffering. It's this belief that you are a person that then has suffering, that is suffering. Right? We create these stories, and it's this strong identification with the body mind that then creates this life of suffering. Whereas bliss, it's the complete opposite. It's the end of suffering. It's also the end of the person. I know that's hard to understand because what you see is a person talking about this, right? But when you start looking at what is a person is, it's an identification process with a concept. See that a person is purely conceptual. It's mind-made. This is a body, right? But then we kind of blend the two. This is a body, and then we kind of interchange them. This is a body, this is a person, right? And then when the person dies, it's a dead body. It's not a person. It's not a person in a casket. It's not a person in a grave. It's a dead body, right? So it's kind of seeing that this person is very conceptual, and it's the person that has the suffering. The suffering is the person. The person is the suffering. Whereas bliss is your true nature. Bliss is what you are, the real you. And that's what makes it kind of hard to explain. And as we're on the path, we're kind of like, I want to get the bliss. I want to have the bliss. I want to possess the bliss. Where if you've had these kind of glimpses or this experience that might be feeling like it's coming and going, go in and out, maybe it happens around a certain someone, that when you experience that bliss, be aware that there's no person there. There's no, I'm so blissful. I want everyone to know about my bliss. Maybe I should take a selfie and show everyone how blissed out I am. There's none of that. There's none of that. We look at suffering as, it is that. I got to let everyone know, how I want things to be different. Letting people know about suffering, and you got to talk about it and create a story. And right, I'm not discrediting suffering in any way. I'm not saying that it's not real. It feels real. But what's real is freedom. What's real is bliss, the bliss that's here, the freedom that's here, the freedom from suffering. And it's to realize that there's no freedom for the person. It's freedom from the person. So it's the stronger we identify with the body mind, the stronger we identify with, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a artist, I'm a singer, I'm a dancer. That strong identification creates this sense of person. The person is, you could swap out person with character. The character, needs a story to support it, right? Needs a backstory. The backstory is like the past, right? When there's a new character in the movie, it's like there's a backstory. They need to establish the character with some story, with a history. It's his story, right? The character, right? So you can see that that's what we're kind of doing when we introduce ourselves. It's like we got this big past. We want to let them know about our achievements, about what we did in the past. And it's creating this sense of character, right? Being free, freedom from the person. It's like it's not like you completely forget about, it's not like your memory gets completely wiped, although it does kind of feel like that. You're just not bringing it everywhere, right? And see that, what would you be without your story? What are you without all the identification? What are you without your identity? What are you without your story? Well, you'd be freedom itself. You'd be freedom itself. And that's why when we experience happiness, joy, you're in the present moment, and there's no thought of you, there's no identity of you. You get a taste of it, which is your true nature, the true nature that's not personal. There's no person there, right? But then what comes on after is, that walk was so good. I was feeling so good. No, you weren't. You weren't there. The person is not there. There's happiness or there's the person. And I'm saying that the person is synonymous with suffering. That's why the end of suffering is happiness. Right? Perfect happiness, unconditional happiness, this happiness that's happiness, love, peace, freedom, all in one. And that's why we can't even understand bliss. Sounds good as like a yoga studio name or a facial spa place. And you use it all as names, but unless you've discovered your true nature, unless you've tasted your true nature, it's like you don't know what that, you haven't experienced what bliss is. So it's interesting to look at it, right? To just look at that this happiness, this perfect happiness, this joy, this peace, this freedom, and those times when you get a taste of it could be just during a sunset or a canoe or a walk in the park or going on a hike or your run. Just become aware. Be aware that in that time, there's just the awareness of happiness. There's just the awareness of love. There's just love. There's just happiness. There's no person that's trying to possess it. There's no person that says, that's my happiness, right? Making it personal. It's mine. That's what I'm saying is bliss is not personal. It's not my bliss. Because then that's two. There's bliss and there's the me. But when you experience bliss or happiness or peace, there's no me that's there to come, that's there to claim it. There's just love. There's just love. There's no you and the other. There's just love. The two dissolve and there's just love. Right? When there's peace, there's just peace. But with suffering, there's always a me and the experience that I'm suffering. Me and the story. Me and the concepts. Me and the idea. And this can give you kind of some insight when you start looking at it, that you go, yeah, what the? I noticed that this was happening early on in my life, that the sense of me it would just vanish, right? And be like, that's where kind of like, when they say like, you get kicked out of the flow state when you say I'm in the flow state, right? It's that person. So long as there's the person, no flow state. Flow state is experienced when the person disappears. When the person kind of, oh, I'm flowing. Oh, no, you're not anymore. Not anymore, right? Because the flow state, you're not experiencing thoughts. And then there's a thought. It's that I thought that comes in and tries to claim, I'm flowing. I'm in the flow state. Oh, shoot, I'm out of the flow state, right? You got to blame this one. It's that thought that arises. But it's interesting when we look at suffering, there's always I'm suffering. And then we kind of think that enlightenment, then I will have bliss. Like it's again something to be attained, but it's not to be attained. There's no attainment. There's nothing to be attained. It's to realize what you actually are is that bliss, that everlasting happiness, love, peace, and freedom. Right? And then the suffering drops because the person drops, that identity drops. Right? That's the dropping of it. So take a look in your own experience that when you're kind of having those, I just want things to be different. I just want them to go back to how they were. I'm just afraid that this is going to happen or could happen. And I just want to achieve. I want to drive to my goal. All those things. That's the suffering. When we cling to our experience, when we resist our experience, that's suffering. We want something to be different than what is. That's suffering. Right? And when you're just accepting what is unconditionally, and you don't have these thoughts kind of creep in that says, I want it to be different. Oh, I want to change this. Right? So then you experience flow. You're in the present moment. You're accepting what is. What is the present moment. You accept the present moment unconditionally instead of resisting or wanting to change and cling to the present moment, which is the suffering. But then you question, who is the one? Who is the one that wants it to be different? Who's the one that wants it to be the same? Find out. Where's that person? And when you look, you can't find the person. The person's not there. The person is just imagination. The character is an imagined character. Right? So then the character essentially disappears. It's seen to be illusionary. And then the real is what's left. And it's what's underlying everything. The being, the consciousness, the bliss. Right? So maybe that might help to look into it, but thought that it's kind of interesting to note that it's my suffering, but bliss is never about my bliss, right? The suffering is always personal, but the bliss is not personal. I'll see you in the next one.